Hey, here we are.
Yeah,
It's Trash Talk. Big shout out to all of you folks that keep following us and commenting and saying thanks for what you do. We really appreciate it. I think at one time that it might have been a little bit of a chore for us to do these shows every week. We're just having more fun doing it and sharing it with you and getting the feedback from you. We're glad that you like us and you follow us and share us with your friends.
yeah,
Pass this along. Say, hey, catch these guys. They're good guys. You know.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Follow, listen. I mean, there's so many different options for people, and you don't have to catch it every Tuesday. You can come back. You can wait till the week. I do that a lot with podcasts that I listen to.
Yeah.
I don't catch them live. I don't, or right when they drop. If it times out that way, great. But 9 times out of 10, I'm doing, it'll be 3, 4 days later, or I got a weekend going on, and I'm, cleaning the house, and I put the pot on, or maybe I'm driving, and I'm like, okay, now's the time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes you just sit back, you got an hour. Our shows generally run between, around 15 to 20 minutes. So you sit down and for an hour, you can catch up on three shows if you want. And
Yeah,
I think to both of our credits, I'll pat Brandon on the back too. Sometimes we just get hysterical, and other times we get downright serious. I mean,
sure.
almost borderline vicious.
Yeah,
But that's the nature of the game, and that's why we do trash talk, and that's why we appreciate you coming back and seeing us every week and the comments that you drop.
absolutely.
So, hey, we're out there in the sporting season, and I was talking the other day to Brandon, and I was talking about a football game, and realized about halfway through the conversation that I was talking about American football, he was talking about soccer. So it was a matter of, well, wait a minute, why do they use the word football for both soccer and for the American version of the sport?
Yeah, well, oddly enough, a lot of people assume that soccer, that term was coined in the United States, and that's not true, actually. It was coined overseas years ago, because, I mean, obviously, soccer, football, as in European football as we know it, was formed overseas. But they used to use soccer as a nickname. It was like became this nickname, but then they started to transcend when rugby became bigger. They started to say, okay, we're just gonna call this football, and it makes sense. I mean, look, the entire game is your foot and the ball. There's no hands.
That's
So
right.
um, now American football, when American or soccer came to the United States in late 18th century, 19th century, they started to kind of tweak out the game a little bit. And they said that it was like the United Association of Football, Soccer. Like it was this big, long name. And then they started to tweak the game out, and they changed it and said, okay, we're going to drop it and just call football this, because this is how we've adapted the game. And now we're going to use the term soccer, since they don't use it over there anymore. We're going to use the term soccer to represent the game that we know from like FC Dallas and the Major League Soccer organization and all that, because we have this established football. It's always been weird to me because they're in football, American football, you don't even use your feet. You kick the ball like,
Yeah, the only thing you use your feet for is for running. But the
yeah,
ball, if the ball touches the ground, it's out of play.
out of place. So it's interesting. And I think I would never call soccer football here in the States, because people would again get confused. And even the MLS, it's Major League Soccer.
Right.
It's not a football organization like it is over in the Euro leagues and all that. So
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that soccer is played with a net. You score by putting the ball in the net. Well, similar to lacrosse, hockey, it uses a net. Water polo uses a net. Regular polo uses a net. there's more sports use a net for scoring than what we know as football, which is merely crossing a line
Yeah.
with the ball.
Biggest thing with me is like people always say, what do you prefer? And I got to be honest with you, probably soccer over football. Um, I think the games, and people are like, oh, how? I mean, there's sometimes the games like end and there's 0-0. And I'm like, okay. I said, but that's not the end. It's not like just because they got 0-0, they're out. Like you got these points and I said, and to me, that's no different than a low scoring football game where you watch it and it's defense, 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 and then they kick a field goal and somebody wins. Don't get me wrong. The defensive strategies and plays, and calculations, super impressive, but also pretty darn boring, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and the other thing that I find, really different about football and soccer is generally the players on the field in soccer play the entire game. Yeah,
look, they're
every so
running.
often there's substitutions and all, but most of the time they play the majority of the time that the clock is running. In football, a guy might run a play or two, and then he comes out and a substitute goes in, and they're constantly changing. In soccer, other than maybe shin guards that the players are wearing, their bodies are pretty much exposed to beating and knocking around. Football,
They're packed up and like, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, you got the elements out there, and you try running up and down that soccer field back full speed for 60 minutes and like the great thing about soccer, and I'm not trying to convince people to say that soccer's better, that's not what I'm saying.
right.
But the great thing about it is that game doesn't stop. So if there is stoppage time for an injury, they're adding that on. You can sit down and watch a soccer game, and if you've got a couple out, 2 hours, when it's going to end.
Right.
When you watch a football game, that game could go on forever.
Right. Timeouts, reviews.
Yes.
Yeah. But also the fact that when you look at the shoulder pads, knee guards, helmets, and all that football players use, because I think football is a lot more violent a sport,
Oh, yeah.
a much more aggressive sport than soccer. I'm always when I'm watching, and granted, some people will say, but soccer, you could watch a whole game for 2.5 hours or whatever, and the final score is 1-0. They're always
Yep.
low scoring, usually low scoring games. The fascination of soccer is to follow the ball, to follow the footwork of the players, that ability. In football, it's just straight ahead power, moving the ball or throwing the ball and trying to be in a place where the opponent isn't.
Yeah, no, it's a completely different game. And I tell everybody, look, you can start a soccer game at 8 in the morning, you're done by 9:15.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're done. You're on to the next, give or take, you know what I mean? But like football, start a game at like noon, it might be 3 o'clock before you're done. Like, and like, they're vastly different, especially the NFL. And look, I am super happy that the Lions are just crushing it. I'm excited to see what they do this year. But I got to be honest with you, I just don't care. I'm not ashamed to admit it. My Lions, yeah, cool. And I'm into it. I'm supporting them. Let's go. And I'm excited to watch them. But I am not an NFL guy. I am bored 9 times out of 10. I'm not saying there's not enough, that there aren't games out there that are great. Like I like getting together and watching football. Like I can get into it and I enjoy it. But if I'm by myself, it's very rare that I'm going to put on a football game by myself, unless it's the Detroit Lions, of course. I will do that with soccer. I will watch soccer. I will do that with hockey. I will do that with basketball. I mean, the Pistons suck, but I still like them. Football, the NFL, and college football for me is way better, and that's what I'm way more into than the NFL.
I agree 100%. I mean, I feel the same way about basketball. I would rather watch NCAA basketball, especially in the playoffs and everything, than watch pro basketball. It just
Well, look, it's just not the same, you know. I mean, and don't get me wrong. At least with pro basketball, it's a pretty fast-moving game. Yeah, you can drag out some time, but there's nothing like going to a live basketball game. And it's really nothing like going to live sports in general. But I've been in
yeah,
live games, and I got to tell you, I prefer college live than NFL live. I don't know.
yeah. I think, and also football. I mean, the bigger the guy is, the more more popular he becomes, or the more useful he becomes on the line, both offense and defense. You get these
Sure.
guys that are 350 pounds. I mean, in soccer, you're talking about lean, mean, scoring machines.
Fact.
The conditioning factor is amazing. And the other beauty of soccer, I think, is all you need is a ball to play soccer.
Go.
You don't need all this extra helmet and all this extra equipment and all that like you do in football. And soccer also, I think, is a great vehicle for young kids to start with, because they start them at age, 5, playing soccer. And if the kid really enjoys, he's getting exercise, he's getting conditioning, he's getting, showing some talent for moving the ball and scoring and all. And if he stays with it, he can make a career out of it. Uh,
I
you know,
agree. It's a good thing to do. It's a good thing just to get involved in. I mean, I was with Luke for a couple of years on that. He wants to get back into it again. It's really hard with school, but I'm not making that as an excuse because he also wants to do a couple other things. So
well,
I'm
I
letting.
also I also heard that he was a pretty good player, but he had a coach that sucked.
He doesn't want me to be his coach anymore. I was a great, uh, but yeah, he was pretty good. He's pretty good out there actually. Because I think the biggest thing with Luke is, he's a little dude and he's determined, and that can go far. But uh, I'm letting him try new stuff. I gave him, he gave me his list. I said, you pick one. I can't do three, and I don't think it's good to do three. Um, let's go. So we're going to see. But the hardest thing with soccer right now is they're playing these games outdoors, and it might be early in the morning, but come on, man. I'm not doing it. I'm not.
Yeah.
Texas is brutal. So you start soccer, like in the into September ones, go September through October, and that's great. So we'll see what happens. I think right now he's focused on his swimming. We're going to up the swimming lessons because he still struggles. Brave, but still struggles, and I need him to get some extra movements in there, and then we'll go. I think he's doing some fighting classes, so we'll go from there. But the thing about soccer for me is it is the world sport. It is. It is the number one sport in the world. They play soccer in more countries than football, okay? Obviously.
Yeah.
And when you look at the World Cup, which is coming here to Dallas very soon, and I'm excited about, it's the most watched period. It beats the NFL. So people that don't even typically watch soccer want to see the World Cup because it is the best of the best and you can get behind your team. Now, the U.S. is probably going to lose. I hate to say it, but we just are. We blow it, whatever. But I don't care. It's going to be an amazing experience to see some of the top-notch players play in the World Cup. And I think that when you look at the World Cup compared to the Super Bowl, yeah, it's a bunch of other games and rounds, but God, the excitement about it. The excitement around it from all these other countries, all these other people. It's just amazing.
Yeah. What amazes me too is that over the last couple of decades, there have been more and more leagues around the world. Sometimes countries have their own leagues, but then there are several different leagues, and they're all playing about the same time. So you can either follow multiple leagues, or you just find an alignment to a certain league and follow the teams within that league.
I've done that quite a bit. I'm a big Serie A fan, the Italian league. I watch a lot of those games. I like the Premier League too, obviously, but I'm a big Serie A fan. MLS, like we live in a very soccer centric area, so I'm obviously an FC Dallas fan. Detroit doesn't have a team, so this is my team.
Right.
Unfortunately, I don't think they're run by the greatest people in the world. And I think all they care about is making money because they don't put money in the team. It's a money machine for them. They farm out these players. They get this young talent. They build them up. They sell them to other teams. And then they go and win championships. Meanwhile, FC Dallas is over here doing this the whole time. But I'm still a fan, and it's super fun to go to. Got to be one of the greatest experiences ever. I mean, since I've been in Texas, I think I've done nothing but hit FC Dallas. I mean, I've had season tickets. I've gone to, private events. We went, I think I'm going again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So excited.
Well, I also find that the venues are a little bit more people friendly too. For instance, you look at the picture behind me. To buy a ticket to go see an NFL game and to sit up there in the third tier and not be able to see a thing, you're better off sitting in your easy chair and letting the camera put you right into every play. In
100%.
in soccer, it's usually a single level stadium that will still hold, 14 to what, 14, 15,000
In
people.
the, yeah, in the States, I mean, look, you go to, overseas and you go to like the Premier League, you're going to see some stadiums. I mean, you're talking
Right.
about stadiums Queen played in, like
Yeah.
they're huge.
And generally in a soccer stadium, you don't have to be at midfield. You can be almost anywhere in the stadium and have a good view of the play.
Well,
Uh,
it's vibe, the energy, because the game is nonstop, that crowd doesn't stop.
yeah, yeah.
Same that at football games, they stop, but it's vastly different.
Well, that's the other thing about European soccer too. The chanting that goes on in the stadium constantly from the initial drop of the ball, it's almost deafening.
Well, and it was like that when we went to FC Dallas, like it's not
Yep.
quiet, like
Yeah.
it's a so
Yeah. But no, I mean, whether you like soccer or you like football and everything, just be a fan and be a loyal fan and enjoy the game. And if you haven't been to a live soccer match or a live NFL football game, put it on your bucket list and do it sometime because it's a lot different than watching it on TV.
oh, 100%, 100%.
Right. And then make sure you come back and get a front row seat for our show next Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. All right.
Then
Well,
guys.
make it a good one. Go!